Hey guys, welcome to the Foundry podcast. This is episode 8, and today I'm joined by one of my mentors, one of my good friends from a long time ago. His name is Will McCullough, and Will is actually my martial arts instructor. He got me into the program, and we've known each other for a long time.
Yeah, that was a long time ago. I was trying to think. So we started the school back in 90. Well, we started training out of our house with a room that we had matted, a spare bedroom. So we did private classes starting in 96. Then we opened the doors on the school in 97. That was fun. But I was driving over here to remember. Do you remember what year you started?
Yes, I know the exact day.
Okay,
October 1st, 2001. Yeah.
So it's been a bit. It's been a bit.
Yeah, it was interesting because, I was a senior in high school and 9/11 happened that year. And I was like, everybody I knew was like, hey, we got to join up now. We got to join the military.
Yeah.
And so I was like, well, I got this much time until I'm 18, this much time until I graduate. So I'm going to start doing some martial arts. And me and my buddies used to fight in the backyard and hurt each other. And so me and my friend Justin signed up, and he stuck with it to yellow shirt. So about 3 or 4 months. And then he quit and joined the Coast Guard. And I went to college and then ended up taking the gym. So
it's ironic that you mentioned 9/11 because everybody will always ask, that's one of those things that you remember, like where were you when that happened? And everybody knows that answer if you were alive at that time. I was at the school. If you might remember, in the mornings we used to teach classes. We had all of our evening classes and fighting classes and whatnot. But in the mornings, we had so many guys from California Tattoo that wanted to train, but they worked at night, because they would come up twice a week in the mornings. I think it was Tuesday and Thursdays. I don't know, at like 10 a.m. or 9 a.m. But we had them, and then we had Close Combat would come out twice a week and train from Parris Island. So when 9/11 went down, Dina, for those of you who don't know, is my wife, and that's always worked with me. But she called me at the school, and Joe Tokar was in there, and all the guys from California Tattoo, and all the Marines from Close Combat were there at the school. And she was like, "Hey, I'm watching this on the news. You let them know you guys should probably all go home and whatever." So I was at the school when that happened. I remember that. So it was a memory.
But that was what brought me in there. But let's talk a little bit about who you are, a little bit of history about yourself.
Well, that's a broad talk. I'm Will. I like long walks on the beach. My favorite color is blue. Now, so I'm Will McCullough. I'm 54. I've been in Beaufort for about since 93.
Yeah.
I came here in 93 as a drill instructor at Parris Island. Loved it. Spent 10 years in the Marine Corps. Loved every day about it. But I've always done fighting stuff all my life. And I've always, not like I'm some pioneer or something, but before mixed martial arts was a word, I enjoyed mixing martial arts. So I taught close combat for the Marine Corps. I did some boxing. I had a couple black belts before I went in the Marine Corps. One, it's called Matsukasu Jiu-Jitsu, which is a traditional Japanese-style jiu-jitsu. And then Kyokushinkai karate. That means somebody knows what they're talking about if they say it, because karate. So karate. But I did both those for many years, and had my black belts in those before I joined the Marine Corps. And then once I was in the Marine Corps, I trained in anything I could, anywhere, because that's all I've ever liked. I never liked... I didn't like regular sports, basketball. I tried to wrestle. Was horrible at it. Actually, well, I digress. But basketball, baseball, things like that I did, and just never did it well. Fighting was like my thing. Lost both my parents very early. I had some anger stuff. And fighting, in whatever arena you would define it as, always kind of gave me a place to do that. So I loved it. But over time of doing all those different things, I kind of realized what worked well for me and worked well for others, and kind of tried to blend things together. And that was and I did do some fights, once again, before it was really cool, but some Valley Tudo fights where it was, anything goes, allegedly. It was fun. But it was way before, the kids and people that do it now are way more talented than I ever did putting things together. But I did do well, because in those days, folks had no clue the bad things that could happen to them on the ground. So like a triangle choke, what the heck's that? Let me show you. So that was fun back in the day. But I wanted to get out of the Marine Corps after 10 years. I wanted to stay in Beaufort. And by this time, it's about 96, like I said. So we started teaching private classes out of our house. That was doing really, really good. Opened up the school in 97. I got out of the Marine Corps in 97 and opened up what was then McCullough Submission Fighting, which became Buford MMA, which is now, what do you call this place? Foundry. I recommend changing it back to McCullough something, but we'll let it slide. So that all did well. Somewhere along the line, I met you. I've had a lot of injuries, like anybody that does this kind of stuff all their life. And back has been a problem of mine. Right around when I hit 30 something, that stuff really started to kind of wear on me. I would, as you may remember, would teach some classes where when I got to the point where I couldn't get in there and scrap with everybody and do everything, I felt like I was kind of perpetrating a fraud. You got to be able to get in there and show this stuff works, especially back then because people have never heard of this stuff. So like, yeah, let me show you. Oh, that's not going to work. Allow me to fix that for you. So at that same time, I realized my longevity in doing this is probably limited. We needed to find something else to do. Read a lot of books, looked into a lot of things, started kind of dabbling in real estate, partnered up with somebody else that was at the school, John Ferguson, who's I think he's with the county sheriffs now, but he and I partnered up together. We had drill instructed together, and we started buying fixer-uppers. That took off. I could never find a realtor that I thought was worth a damn, so I got my license myself. And then people at the school, and I always kind of kept that on the down low that we were doing that because I was afraid, somebody gets hurt, they're going to sue me thinking I've got all this stuff, which I don't, by the way, but perception is, 9/10 of the reality. So it came to the point eventually where I started helping out some people from the school, and that was kind of taken off. And I realized, this is something we could do.
Yeah.
So passed the school off to you in what year?
2003.
2003. Yeah. Wouldn't have done that if I knew you were going to change the name, but once again, here we are. So I was kidding. Obviously, that knew that. But started doing real estate full time in 2003. Did, through the grace of God and a little bit of luck and a little bit of tenacity, did really, really well with it. Kept doing well. Started our own brokerage in 2016. That also did well. And about a year ago, we got approached by Century 21. They wanted us to brand with them and franchise with them. Made a lot of sense. Looked at all their tools and training. It helps us much better serve the consumer, much better serve our agents. Went through the process with them. I think I've been branded with Century 21 now as their owner operator locally. So we completely own that brokerage. We just get to use all of their tools and training and have them as assistants. But we started with them in September, and it's just been absolutely gangbusters ever since. So It's been a really, really neat. If you had asked me when you walked into school for the first time, October 1st of 2001, if 20-something years later, we'd be sitting here talking about my career in real estate, I'd have told you were probably smoking crack, but here we are. You wanted to know a little about me? There you go.
That's a lot about you.
Yeah, well, I make it all up. So.
A lot of this stuff.
No, it's true.
A lot of this stuff that you're mentioning with real estate, martial arts, and then Marine Corps, those are three branches that you see a lot of people who do like public speaking, that share thoughts, TED Talks, motivational speakers. Like Tony Robbins, for instance, was a martial artist, and everyone knows him. There's a lot of real estate people who get into like mentorship and helping others, and it makes sense from a brokerage standpoint because you have a lot of people that you rely on for your business, and they rely on you for your acumen, your abilities. So, do you find that you're drawn to stuff like that as part of your nature, you think, or you think that it's just something that's fallen into your lap?
Yes. I think in life in general, you have to be aware of things that are potentially falling in your lap. I think a lot of us go through life and don't necessarily recognize that things that dropped in their lap or near their lap that they didn't take the time to embrace or consider embracing. I think you'll find a lot of people, whether it's public speaking or entrepreneurial or successful, whatever, do have some type of background in fighting sports. And I have a layman's theory for that because you absolutely, especially small business, most small businesses, 90% of them fail in the first year. That tenacity, that desire to keep going no matter what happens because you think you can, is something that's bred into people via martial arts. And I think that echoes through other chapters of life. Another example is, we talk about how somebody succeeds or whatever. You very rarely hear about how somebody failed.
Yeah.
Everybody fails all the time.
100%,
Failing is a part of it. And my favorite saying, if I could have something written on my tombstone, would be, you cannot learn to fight without getting punched in the face.
Yeah.
And I think whether it's real estate or other forms of entrepreneurship or just doing whatever you want in life, you got to recognize that you're going to take knocks and there's going to be days that, you're getting choked out. But you get up, you keep going, and you do it again until, that scenario doesn't play out again. Now you're getting choked out some other way. You cannot learn to fight without getting punched in the face. And I think that line is applicable through many other paths. And I think that's why you see that string in the examples you were mentioning.
Yeah, and I think that, a lot of the things that you used to coach and teach in our classes, I still teach to other people now. So, I mean, that's that longevity in the training, and I'm sure somebody relayed that information to you at some point. I mean, we all learn from experience, but I'm sure you've had some mentors and some coaches over the years who, instilled certain wisdom to you that helps out. But just the other day, I was talking to the class about, choke defense. When people's in a choke, you gotta bite down on your teeth, and you gotta flex your neck, and you gotta try to bear with it as long as you can and weather the storm.
Weather the storm.
That's and that's
or you go unconscious. It's one of the two, and
you wake up feeling good, or you don't wake up. But the point is that if you can weather the storm, you can get through that difficult time, then that just makes you stronger. It just makes you more capable the next time. Obviously, you get to know where your limits are a little bit, but also for me, one of the things that as a coach, the same thing happened with you, I know it did, is everyone put a target on you in the class.
Yes.
Every single person. I know I did it with you when I was training. And so everyone wants to be like, I'm going to be the guy to catch coach. I'm going to be the guy to get him. Okay. And the funny thing is about it is that once it actually happens, they're like,
yeah.
I've been training with you so long that it's like, this makes sense, but it's not a bad thing. It's almost like it's not a badge of honor, It's just like, oh, this is just training.
That's another example of life in general. Using the example of a real estate brokerage, we've had a very, very successful career and intend to continue to. But the whole reason we have a brokerage now is to train other people to be able to do what we've done, teach them everything we know. Hopefully they can improve on that and make it better. Mm-hmm. So we want them to be able to get to the point where they produce better than us. I want to give you everything I know, and then you find a way with your own creativity to take those tools. And it's the same thing with fighting stuff. I mean, you impart, there's a stage in your life where you're trying to learn everything, and then there's a stage in your life where you want to start giving that back so somebody can improve on that, and hence the evolution of our species and why we are no longer carrying pointy sticks. We keep improving on that foundation. And as long as you keep that in mind.
Some people still carry pointy sticks.
There's nothing wrong with a pointy stick in the right scenario, but there are better ways to skin that cat.
Exactly. Now, I remember some stories over the years of training with you. Nothing horrible, but you did some time in the military, obviously, and you spent some time abroad. What kind of training did you have while you were in the Marine Corps that you think?
Well, I did teach close combat for the Marine Corps, but that in the Marine Corps, in the Marine Corps 20-something years ago, maybe it's changed, but that's a secondary MOS where you're assigned to a unit and you're teaching them close combat, or you're doing it like at a place for Parris Island for a set amount of time. My main job in the Marine Corps is a combat engineer. There's many different ways that field can go too, but I was always in the Marine Corps division, which means I carried a heavier pack. So I would attach out to grunt units, deploy with them, go with places, landmine warfare, demolitions, explosive stuff, things like that. That was what I did in the Marine Corps. To answer your question?
And when you were over there, did you have to anytime use your martial arts experience?
Are you looking for a certain story? Because there's only one story that comes up.
That's a good story.
So, as a Marine and during those years, I spent some time in Panama when they were looking for Mr. Noriega in '89, and on the edges of Desert Storm. But so I've been in harm's way, but absolutely nothing compared to the kids over the last something years. I mean, it doesn't even do it justice to say I have. But there was a time where there were some Kurdish refugees in northern Iraq after Desert Storm, and they were leaving. I shouldn't even tell this story, but they were leaving Iraq and trying to get into Turkey. And Turkey doesn't want the Kurds. The Kurds are have always been hated by everybody, which is a shame. They're good people, but they're kind of like a people of no land in the northwest area of Iraq and the northeast area of Turkey. Anyhow, they're trying to flee Iraq. Turkey's not letting them in. They sent in a bunch of Marines to build a tent city for them, like while they were trying to do this big humanitarian thing. I was one of those jarheads that was there trying to help them. So we were, and of course people are fleeing Iraq. So at this time, this is early in all this stuff. There was a line of people trying to get in a tent city, and we would stand there and kind of check them in all day and wave them and everything. And so there's one Marine standing there, like saying, yes, go in. We have an interpreter there with us who we don't know who this person is. And very long story, much shorter, is at one point during that line of somebody, a guy suddenly, I'm in a daze at this point. This is just going on for hours. And a guy suddenly kind of gets in my face. He pulls out a knife and is like, I gotta. And he's waving a knife in my face. And I wrist locked him down and threw him around the ground a little bit. He got arm barbed, by the way. And that was before people knew what an arm bar was. Meanwhile, the guy who was an interpreter guy, so this just happened in an instant. I'm just not paying attention, and suddenly this guy's waving a knife in my face, and I reacted. Meanwhile, the interpreter guy's like grabbing me and pulling me, which made things bad for him if the other Marines that were around. And basically what he was saying was trade. The guy was trying to ask if I wanted to trade my knife, my K-bar, for his, but was waving it in front of my face. So the only time I have done anything applicable in a combat situation outside of occasional little scuffles here and there, but in a Marine Corps scenario, was some poor guy who wanted to trade knives with me.
Well,
and we didn't trade knives. Story. So there you go. Yeah,
traded some techniques.
We did.
He showed you how to brandish a weapon.
Shockingly, he didn't have any. So
exactly.
That was.
Well, that's.
And we did athletic commission stuff. We did all that. So that was fun stuff too.
I want to talk about that too. So, one of the things that people don't understand is that the UFC came to South Carolina a lot of the case because of you, and it was able to because of what you were able to do with commission.
In 2014, I was lucky enough to be appointed to the State Athletic Commission by Governor Haley. And basically every state has an athletic commission, and you know this, but for your scores of listeners, the Athletic Commission governs, rules, and regulates all combat sports for a state. So if somebody watches a pay-per-view, they'll see, this event is sanctioned by the Nevada State Athletic Commission or something. So in each state, it doesn't govern like collegiate sports or anything. It's combative sports. So pro and amateur boxing, pro and amateur kickboxing, MMA, even pro wrestling. Like when the WWE comes to Charleston or whatever, that's still going through the Athletic Commission. Because even though it's, spoiler alert, it's scripted. Even though it's scripted, they still have to have physicals and things like that, just like any other thing.
Sure.
So where should it fall? I guess the Athletic Commission. So that's why it's in there. But just like, in real estate, there's a real estate commission. There's a governing body in the state under the Department of LLR that oversees any licensing body for the state. So fighters and trainers, whatever, that's the Athletic Commission. So I got appointed to the Athletic Commission. Senator Tom Davis, our local state senator, great guy. They needed somebody to fill a slot up there. Governor Haley reached out. Tom Davis knew of my fighting background and stuff here with the state, put in my name. They looked at my stuff and said, okay, I guess we're lowering the standards this month. You come in. So I had a Senate confirmation hearing, which was all kind of fun, and got to do that. A year later, I was elected as the chair. So I got to chair the commission, and it was a 5-year term where we oversaw everything going on in the fighting world. So every weekend I was going to different events and making regulations and rules, and some of the stuff you probably complain about, and some of the things you don't complain about, all came from that. I did about 5 years with them. But even though South Carolina, especially at that time, we've always had, boxing events and regional MMA events. The one big thing we've always been missing is we never had the UFC come to South Carolina. They've been around it. They've gone to Atlanta. They've gone to North Carolina. They've been here and there. They never came here. So that was the one thing I wanted to do is before I'm done, I want to bring a UFC. So June something of 2019, after a long time of talking with them and negotiating this and that and working with them and make sure everything was the way it is, they brought the first ever UFC to South Carolina, and that's something that makes me really happy. Yeah. And then my term, I actually had a 4-year term. I extended it. I extended like a little extra year. My term ended right before January of 2000, which it was time to move on and do other things. I check my box, which was ideal because that's right before COVID hit and everything went to pot on that. Exactly. So yay for me.
Good timing. Again, something falling in your lap. And, with COVID and the real estate, that definitely, that was probably a good time for you in your company, right?
You wouldn't think. Well, it was a good time and a bad time. I was one of the first people in the Beaufort area to get COVID because we were still wide open. And, no matter how somebody feels about this politically, as soon as COVID hit, the first couple weeks were, excuse me, the first couple weeks were just silence, nothing happening. And then, once again, no matter how somebody feels about it politically, the fact is folks began flocking away from every large urban center and more restrictive state. And the phone was just ringing nonstop. And, you wore a mask or whatever. This is all still new. But anyhow, I had COVID like in June of that year. Mm-hmm. And it was so still unknown in this area that people were thinking, is it real? Is it not real? That and I got really sick from it. I had to go in the hospital and everything. So, and I never get sick, but I got sick. So they even had a news crew from Savannah come up and like do a little video shoot. Hey, this local guy who's kind of in shape for his age, marginally in shape for his age. Look, he's real. He's really sick. Like, thanks. So I had that. But from a real estate perspective, if people want to be south of the Mason-Dixon line and they want to be on the coast, which is a lot of people. I mean, that's kind of everybody's dream. They're tired of Florida. Charleston is basically Beaufort gone bad. You got your downtown historic area and then just every town sprawl. Savannah's nice if you want to be in a city. That's not for me. I guess what I'm saying is Beaufort is very unique in how it's laid out. It checks a lot of people's boxes because of that Forrest Gump meets Norman Rockwell feel. Mm-hmm. We've always been on a map. COVID really, and people being able to work at home or retire early, really allowed others to become aware of it. And as others become aware of it, they know and they know. So Beaufort's on the map. Sure. So I don't want to say COVID was good to us.
No, not at all.
But it's from a business perspective, it sure as heck didn't hurt.
Yeah, and it changed so many.
From a community perspective, it may have changed the feel of things, but that's inevitable. People want to be south of the Mason-Dixon line. They want to be on the coast. They want Beaufort, and I don't blame them. So did I.
Mm-hmm. And it's like when you think about the inhabitants, if you will, of Beaufort. I wasn't born here. You weren't born here. Like a lot of the community that knows it as their community weren't born here necessarily.
That's Beaufort. I mean, you can find a native Beaufortonian or two, but there's a good chance they were born to somebody who wasn't. I mean, that's just more and more the case. I wasn't born here, but I got here as fast as I could. And that was one of the factors of me getting out and starting a school. I had 10 years in the Marine Corps, and this is back in the late 90s. If you enlist for another 4 years, you might as well stay for 20. I had the chance. Basically, my options were go to Courthouse Bay, which is a place where they train engineers, basically be a teacher, which I've been a drill instructor for 4 years. Why do I want to keep teaching? I want to be out actually doing Marine stuff.
Teaching martial arts.
Or go to Okinawa for like, a year unaccompanied. Well, I'm fairly newly married. I want to start a family. Mm-hmm. Beaufort is like the greatest place I've ever been. You know what? I'm going to get out. We're going to open this fighting school, see what happens. Here we are. This is what happened. You're sitting there. I'm sitting here.
Man. It's a blessing to all of us.
Opinions vary, but that's what happened.
Sure, so. Yeah. Well, I think that if you look at the people whose lives you've touched, and through that, me being one of them, and I always, where I find value in what I can provide is in the results that I have in people's lives. It's, people talk about monetary gain and all that kind of stuff, and yes, people come into the Foundry like, oh, this place is amazing. It's great. It's, they might have an idea of what I get out of this place, but what I really get out of this place is just the amount of people that I can impact,
That's the same, no matter what somebody chooses to do occupationally or with your life, is if you can make a tangible difference in somebody's life. And that sounds like just spin, especially from a realtor, but it's not. That is the largest fiscal decision that somebody's ever going to make, for most people. And being able to guide them through that and help make an actual difference in life. I mean, I was living in a crappy, falling apart, rented double wide when we bought our first place. And the first realtor I went and talked to, which is what made me get my license, laughed in my face. She thought it was funny when I was telling her I wanted to buy a home. She was right. I had no business buying one. I didn't have credit, but I didn't know. I had no parents to ask. I've always remembered that. So whether it's impacting people and teaching them athletics or taking care of themselves physically or selling them a countertop that's going to make them happier. I mean, if you approach whatever it is you're doing in life and how can I make that person's life better, genuinely, not a spin. Sure. If that's what you care about, life's probably going to reward you. And maybe it won't be tangible, maybe it'll be intangible, but no matter what, putting others' priorities as your priority, I think is right up there with you can't learn to fight without getting punched in the face as far as making things actually work in life.
Yeah, it's important because like you can't take everything with you. And, honestly, for me, what gives me, obviously I have a family. I want my family to be, taken care of and everything. But what gives me the thought of, what is my purpose? What is my duty in knowing what I know? Because yes, martial arts saves people's lives in combat and self-defense. I've had stories where people say, what you taught them saved their life. And that's awesome to me. But just in the day-to-day, people saying, I was getting ready to end it. I couldn't handle it anymore. And then they started coming here and training, and then things change. And I know that's not just with our facilities. A lot of martial arts schools, there's a lot of industries in general that is the people that they come in contact with. But it's just such a motivator for me to just keep doing this as long as I can, regardless of the outcome, financially. It's just I want to leave an impression on people that takes them a little bit more to a good spot in their life.
You are definitely doing that. I mean, there's no way I can ever say this without it sounding condescending or unintentionally parental, because neither of those are true. But I am so proud of what you have taken, this little thing that we kind of started and was fun and was doing good, and just made it into something so much grander. And I don't mean grand just on the scale, although you've done that, but grand in the volume and cornucopia of folks that you can have a positive impact on. Sure. Through so many different vehicles, whether it's working out in the gym or doing gymnastics or the fighting stuff or God knows what else you're doing right now, swinging around on those little ropes. What is that called where they hang on? What is it?
Aerial fitness.
Yeah, aerial fitness. I never did that. So maybe it's whatever it is. I mean, you've done amazing. The volume of people you have impacted through this place puts to shame anything I ever did with that place. And it's not like a competition. But if it was, you'd be winning. So there you go.
Well, you've rehomed many more people than I ever have. So, you win in that category. As far as like the real estate, in case we have some people that watch this who really aren't from Beaufort, let's talk a little bit about Beaufort. And you already said about, what makes it such a great town, but what is the real estate like here?
The market is interesting right now, and that sounds like realtor spin, but it's a good way to say it. Interest rates are high at this particular moment, but that is not at all stopping the saleability of property. Things are still moving pretty quick and very well. We still have appreciation. Everything's still going up and still moving quickly. The difference is, I think the fiscal engine that drives the local market is active early retirees. Folks who are moving to this area, not retirees from a geriatric perspective, 55 and over communities, but people who are in their 50s, 60s, 70s, who still have a lot of chapters in their life. They're flocking here. With them comes the people that want to serve them, whether it's opening a gym or having a real estate office or a landscaping business. All these third-party businesses are springing up and doing well because of supporting that. And of course, hospital and medical does good. The bases always do good too. The one area of the market from a buying perspective that it's been really tough for over the last year or so is younger kids, first-time home buyers, because rates are so much higher right now, and they're competing with folks who are maybe sold their home in Ohio and are just paying cash. Exactly. And that's tough. So first-time home buyers have it tough right now, but there's a difference between tough and not possible. That is where having good guidance and somebody to kind of really take them through the process and make sure they're ready and they know everything is very, very helpful. And I'm happy to say that's what we do. I've sold multi-million-dollar properties and large commercial developments and all kinds of things. There's nothing I like better than working with a young person who's trying to buy their first home because they know nothing. And I remember when I wanted to do it, somebody thought it was funny and laughed in my face. So that's always really important to me. So the market is good, but it's always a snapshot. It goes up, it goes down. This happens. I've done real estate now for a long, long time, and you see all that. So it's a good market, but you definitely need good guidance and somebody, for lack of a better way to say it, to truly hold your hand. Mm-hmm. You can't throw a rock without hitting a real estate agent in Beaufort. God knows I try it all the time, and I always hit them. There's about 1,000 of them. That's probably an exaggeration, but north of the Broad. And obviously I'm one of them. But we take it really, really serious. Dina, my wife, she and I, we've done it now for a long time. We could hang our license anywhere and do totally fine, do really good. But the reason we have a brokerage is we want to train other agents or people who want to be in this business to do what we've done and best serve the consumer. That's it. That's why we have our brokerage. That's why we partner with Century 21. We want to do a better job for the consumer. That's the truth. And it's allowing us to do that. I mean, we're really helping people learn how to help people and do it the right way. It's pretty cool. I like it. Sorry, I'm going off on a tangent
That's
again,
fine.
but you know me long enough. You talk about different things and opportunities. And as somebody with no formal education background other than beating people up or blowing stuff up, there was only so many options. And I've always viewed real estate as being like the perfect microcosm of the American dream because it doesn't take that much to get in. And, $1,000, you've got your classes done, you've joined the board, you're in. For the ability to have an income potential, above that of most doctors and attorneys. That doesn't mean everybody does it. That means you can do that. And that's why I say it's the perfect microcosm of the American dream because it doesn't take that much to get in. And then you can truly succeed and fail based off your own merits and how you treat people. The sky is absolutely the limit, and so is the basement. And if you learn what you're supposed to do and really treat people right and benefit their lives, you're going to do really well with it. And I think it's just absolutely fantastic.
And if you can weather the storm.
Weather storms. Starting off is always tough in that career because, you don't know anything. It takes a while to get things going. But if you got good guidance and you're thinking about a new career, that storm, someone can hold an umbrella over you and guide you through that storm, which is, it's just coaching another way. We coach clients. We coach people how to do what we've done.
Do you find that there's because a couple of years ago, if not currently, I don't really keep up on as much, but a lot of people were looking at doing investment properties like Airbnb, short-term rentals. Is that still a big thing?
Still a thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Still a thing. It's
Does it make it more difficult for homeowners to buy?
No, not in this market. There are regional areas across the U.S. where that is the case. Not here. A good portion of the communities have restrictions on if short-term are allowed in the community, and if so, how many? I mean, no, it's not an overbearing thing. And there's, from an investment perspective, that can take many forms. It can be somebody buying something as a short-term rental, as a long-term rental, buying a piece of land and holding on to it, buying a home, maybe a little fixer-upper, putting some sweat into equity into it, fixing it up, living in it for a few years, selling it or renting it out when you go somewhere else. All those things work. I will tell you, C note A, Beaufort is on the map. Barring a complete collapse of our society, which could happen, but barring that, Beaufort has nowhere to go but continue to go up. There's a finite amount of land on the water. Most of it is urban. There's really not many places like Beaufort. We are on the map. Traffic's going to get more congested. We're going to have more big box stores and things like that. That's the future. It is what's going to happen. But barring a complete collapse of our society, it's almost impossible in the mid to long term to go wrong in the Beaufort area. Now, you still want to shop the right deal and everything, but no matter how one defines investing in real estate, there's a lot of different boxes that could be put in. It's hard to go wrong here. I think the biggest problem somebody could do, like a young military person or whatever, is to come here, rent for 3 or 4 years and leave. If you're going to be here and you have the ability to buy. It may not be your dream home starting off. It won't. But you can leave in 3 years, rent that thing out, do it the next place you go, the next place you go. Now you got 20 years in and you're selling 6 or 7 properties at 15 years of appreciation. Congratulations on your retirement. Not just your military retirement, your real retirement. I mean, there's so many ways. Real estate is the great equalizer for building. We hear so much talk about generational wealth. Well, this is where it starts. Yeah. This is how you create it.
How is the being that we are technically in a hurricane zone? How is the
Good question.
insurance and stuff?
So, not bad is the short answer. So, this might shock you, but I'm not a meteorologist. All right. So, I'm going to explain this as a layman who's lived here 30 years who may not know what the heck they're talking about. All I know is observation from my own personal perspective. So, let me lay this out. From a hurricane perspective, we see storms every year and they're out there. So first off, it can happen. And about every 100 years or so, it does happen here. Yeah. So, Beaufort and everything built here could get just wiped off the map and have to be rebuilt. Still would end up doing well over time. But we are on the coast. We are in the south. Storms can happen and invariably will. We get brushed by. Someday we're going to get a direct hit again. I think the last one was a long time ago. But either way, it can happen. So my point on that is, anecdotally, watching as a layman, 30-something years of living here, we see storms coming out of the Caribbean or out of the Atlantic. They make a beeline right into Florida. Or they go towards Florida or a little under and they go up in the Gulf. Or they look like they're coming towards us, then they get caught in the jet stream and go up the way South Carolina jukes out, Myrtle Beach, north of Charleston, Myrtle Beach, North Carolina, Wilmington, and the Outer Banks. They are. So the way the jet stream works, things like to curve up and hit up there, or they kind of go under us. The way, if you look at a map of the Southeast, the way basically from Savannah to just south of Charleston, what we'll call the Low Country, the way that tucks in and is protected by some barrier islands, everything seems to either go under and around or come to us and come out, and we're kind of tucked into that coast. So I will tell you, as a layman, statistically, we're like the least likely target of anywhere from North Carolina, anywhere down the Florida coast. Does that mean that in June this year we couldn't have a Cat 5 slam into us? No, it could. And so what you're going to find is most homes around here and properties do not require flood insurance. The elevation is high enough and there's other factors, they don't require it. But make no mistake, everywhere in Beaufort County is in a flood zone, but most homes don't require flood insurance. But one of the first pieces of advice I give to everybody is get it anyhow. You've got homeowners, you've got wind and hail, get a flood policy. Most homes, don't quote me on this, talk to Zara Goodyear at Kinghorn Insurance or Pete Clark. But anyhow, talk to a good insurance person. But roughly, you're going to be looking at, if you want an optional annual policy, give or take $600 a year. For flood insurance. And they define flood a different way. Flood is rising water, not a pipe breaks in your home or your roof gets torn off, it rains in. That's not flood. Flood is water rising up. But anyhow, get an optional flood policy, and 90 homes out of 100 in the area, you're looking at around probably $600. Once again, don't quote me. So that answers your question. And that's my anecdotal observation. But once again, let me put that disclaimer in. As Will McCullough saying, no storms are going to hit here. No, I'm saying in the 30 years I've lived here, that's my observation of things. But you should get flood insurance. And because statistically we have such a low history and some other factors, it's not that much. So definitely get it. I don't care if you have a little 2-bedroom home in Pigeon Point or a multi-million-dollar whatever. Get it just in case.
So it's definitely not a barrier to entry.
No, not at all. So. Not at all. There's things you want to look at. What's the elevation of the home? How high above sea level? Are you in a low spot? Blah, 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 blah. A good realtor is going to guide you through that. And the things they can't guide you through, they're going to send you to a really good local insurance agent who's going to pull up flood maps. And that's part of your due diligence. So it's like people get a home inspection. You're not just inspecting a home. You want to inspect where that home sits and what you need to be aware of and flood history and things like that. So we're like a spider in the middle of the web. We connect all those dots and make sure people know what they need to know.
Well, I appreciate the information myself, but
I made it all up. Again, I'm just like shooting from the hip. I don't know what I'm talking about.
So I appreciate you coming on today and talking, and we have a long history together, some funny stories, some not so funny stories, I'm sure, in there, but
I can't think of any not funny stories.
I'm sure.
I'm sure I could.
We try not to.
I said hi on the street. Hi, Abe. That's not very funny. So yeah. When's the next fight? When's the next big event?
We're looking at doing it. We just talked to the coordinator of the water festival. We're trying to get involved in doing a boxing event at the water festival. If we can swing it, it's a little late in the season to do that, but that would be awesome if we can get that, if not this year, the next year. And then the next Beaufort Brawl, we are looking at doing it at the end of May. We've had some things in the gym come up that have prolonged and delayed it, so if we can't do it beginning of May, we'll target another time, either July or August. But
I didn't mean to put you on the spot with that, but
No,
I'm
that's
just curious.
fine.
But I will say
People wanna
now,
know.
in front of your millions of viewing public, that you got your main sponsor right here. So just tell me when it's coming. We'll do it.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you again, Will, and thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed it, and subscribe and stay tuned for the next one. Have a great day.
Thanks.